Today, we're going to dive into one of the most fascinating and, let's be honest, seductive characters in history. We're talking about those people who just grab our attention, not because they fit in, but because they stand so artfully and so mysteriously apart.
So, let me just ask you this. Have you ever really thought about why we're so drawn to people who just defy easy labels, the ones you can't quite pin down? That's the real mystery we're getting into in this explainer.
All right, let's get right into it. Our first section here is all about the allure of ambiguity. We're going to unlock the secret power behind this very specific kind of persona.
And that persona, it has a name, the dandy. But look, this isn't really about fancy clothes or a snobby attitude. The real power of the dandy comes from what they represent. It's freedom. A freedom from all those tight, limiting social boxes that, well, most of us feel stuck in every single day. They're like a living, breathing symbol that another way is possible.
So how do they pull this off? Well, the absolute key is how they play with gender itself. They blend what we think of as masculine and feminine traits, and they create this charm that's totally unique and ambiguous. And this appeals to something really deep inside all of us, our own complex identities. It's like they're reflecting a version of ourselves that we kind of wish we had the guts to show the world.
But here's the thing. This archetype isn't some one-size-fits-all deal. Nope. It actually has two very distinct flavors: the masculine and the feminine. Think of them as two sides of the same incredibly alluring coin.
Okay, so on the left, you've got the feminine dandy. The perfect example, the silent film star Rudolph Valentino. He absolutely mastered what the source material here calls the gigolo's art. Using grace, incredible style, and this deep sensitivity to what women wanted to just mesmerize them. And then on the right, you have the masculine dandy. Think of someone like the fiercely brilliant Lou Andrea Salome. She just adopted traditionally male traits, independence, emotional detachment, and she flat out refused to be owned or defined by any man.
Now let's zoom in on that feminine dandy for a second. The real genius here is the duality. They pull you in with this soft, pleasing, almost gentle vibe. They make you feel seen, understood, but, and this is crucial, underneath that graceful surface, there's always this edge of cool control, a little reminder of their masculine power. It's just a devastatingly effective mix. And the masculine dandy? Oh, she completely flips the script on how relationships are supposed to work. By being so independent, so self-contained, and just refusing to be tied down, she basically neutralizes a man's usual power moves. He just doesn't know how to deal with a woman who's so good at using the very weapons of detachment he's used to using himself.
So what are the actual tools they're using to do all this? Well, that brings us to the dandy's toolkit. And you should really think of this as their secret arsenal, the specific tactics that make this whole persona so incredibly powerful.
So at the heart of their whole method, there are really four key pillars. It all starts with cultivating androgyny. Then you've got this practice of a very specific and very powerful kind of insolence. You combine that with a total mastery of aesthetics, and finally, you wrap the whole thing in a philosophy of just living for pleasure. Let's break these down one by one.
First up is that androgynous quality. The source material actually calls this a bisexual charm. And it's so powerful because it works on your subconscious. It totally bypasses your logical brain and speaks directly to all the repressed, unexplored bits of your own identity. It's what makes the dandy seem so thrilling and liberating.
Next up is insolence. And this quote, it just perfectly nails the paradox. They please by displeasing. See, a dandy doesn't try to win you over. Not at all. They have this supreme contempt for what's normal. A confidence that's so absolute it's mesmerizing. The fact that they refuse to beg for approval is, ironically, the very thing that makes them so damn appealing.
The third tool is aesthetics. A dandy's image is everything, but it's never flashy or vulgar. It is always about the deliberate, unique detail. I mean, think about Beau Brummel, who would apparently spend hours just to get the perfect knot in his necktie, or Oscar Wilde with his famous green velvet suit. These weren't just clothes, they were declarations of who they were.
And finally, we get to maybe their most advanced psychological weapon, a concept the source material calls mental transvestism. Now hold on, this has nothing to do with clothes. It's all psychological. It's the dandy's uncanny ability to get inside the mind of the opposite sex, to actually understand their worldview, to mirror their tastes, and to think like they do. And when they do that, it creates this disarming, almost hypnotic connection.
But living outside the rules like this, it's not without some serious dangers. This whole persona is a high-wire act, and believe me, the fall can be absolutely brutal. Which brings us to our final section,
the price you pay for breaking the rules. Remember that second tool we talked about? Insolence. It is an incredibly powerful and effective weapon in the dandy's arsenal.
But if you point it at the wrong person, it can backfire in the most spectacular, life-ruining way.
And there is no better example of this than the original dandy himself, Beau Brummel. This guy was the king of style, a close personal friend of the Prince of Wales. But one day, he made a careless, insulting remark to the prince in public. The fallout? It was immediate. He was completely cast out, and he ended his life in total social and financial ruin. A single sentence just destroyed his entire world.
So here's the bottom line. The dandy's lifestyle is just inherently risky. Their whole vibe can stir up some serious resentment and insecurity, especially from people of their own gender. In an office setting, that persona can come across as threatening. And, like we just saw with Brummel, their rule-breaking spirit is always walking a very fine line, with total social disaster just one wrong move away.
And all of this leaves us with one final, really fascinating question to chew on. In a world that is always pushing us to conform, to just pick a label and stick with it, is the incredible freedom that the dandy represents actually worth the profound risk? I'll let you be the judge of that.